for every time we say, what if this doesn't work?
Yeah.
First of all, what if it does? Walk through that scenario.
Right.
And two, what if it doesn't? Are you closing so many doors that you don't have a place to go to after this doesn't work out? Because so many times when we pursue a new thing, all we're doing is opening more doors.
Exactly.
We're expanding the possibilities that can come. Hey, I'm Tine, your pivot and pay strategist. I help Black women double their income by leveraging their existing skills. I am all about getting Black women paid, whether you're an employee or a business owner. And you're listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. I am Tine, your pivot and pay strategist. And today we have our very special guest, Miss Ileka Falette. I am so excited to have you back.
Hey.
Hello, welcome.
We're acting like we don't ever talk or see each other, and we do all the time.
I'm like, oh, it's been so long. But behind the scenes, it's been like 5 minutes. So, but Miss Ileka, I am so excited to have you today because we have a fantastic topic. Yes. Today, we are talking about how you can make a change in your career without getting another degree, another expensive certification, right? These are lucrative careers you can move into, no degree required.
Right, without 4 or 5 years of additional education and time, right?
And debt.
Yes.
And I've been on this soapbox so many times, but I'm going to say it again for anyone who is just joining us. Black women are the most educated, the most qualified, and still among the least paid.
Exactly.
And whenever I have a client come to me and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about this, I want to go for this, but I got to get this certification first, I got to get this other degree, I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
There are some situations where a degree is required, right? I'm not talking about let's go be a doctor without an MD, right?
Yeah,
That's not right. And there are certain licensures that are necessary, etc. But when you are trying to make a pivot, really think about, are there white guys doing this work without that certification, without that degree?
Because there definitely are, even
absolutely.
It's so funny that you mentioned this because it could literally be in almost any field. I know because we want to definitely talk about specific fields today because we want to talk about like some really money making,
right,
to get paid. But I was even thinking about things like becoming a teacher and you already have a degree. There's actually opportunity to do that without getting another degree or becoming, I know, especially white men and white women who would become like health coaches and wellness coaches and mindset and, all these different things as an entrepreneur without any additional degrees, certifications, and yet we think that we have to go and get 4 more years of school or whatever it is, right? Or get whatever master's, MBA, all these doctorate in order to do the thing.
Yeah. And I do think part of that comes from always having to prove ourselves, right? And I do not know a Black woman who has not had someone in her life tell her, you're going to have to be twice as good, work twice as hard to get half as much.
Exactly.
And there is some truth to that, but we can change that. We don't have to keep doing it. We can show up and say, I have the experience and the intelligence and the ability to learn on the job and the potential that you recognize in white guys without batting an eye. I have all that stuff too.
Exactly.
And I don't need to spend thousands of dollars on an additional degree to prove it to you.
Right. Hundreds of thousands now. But yeah, exactly.
Yes. And And one thing I want to talk about is, so I have a master's degree in education.
Mm-hmm.
I was a teacher for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Literally, we can count them.
But I still I use my expertise in education in the other things I've pursued.
Absolutely.
And my most lucrative role as an employee was as a software engineer. And you know how many computer science degrees I have? 0. I do not have a computer science degree. I have a bachelor's in Black Studies and Psychology with a minor in music.
Yeah.
I have a master's in education with a specialty in teaching math. And I was making $150,000 as a software engineer without getting any degree in that field. I did a boot camp. I learned what I needed to learn. And I moved through. I negotiated my salary every time, including my first job as a software engineer, because I said to them, I'm a software engineer who can speak human. My experiences doing other stuff, my experiences as a career changer are the asset that you need, because all these guys who got their computer science degree straight out of high school and then into college, they've never done what I've done. They don't know how to break down a concept to a person who isn't from a technical background.
Yes.
Like I do. Right. And so it's about leveraging our strengths, the things that we've been doing. Every single thing you've been doing in your career up to this point has been experience, has been value add to whatever thing you're going to go do next.
Exactly. Value add to your income, to your salary moving forward, to your check.
Yes.
It's 100%. 100%. And it's so funny. I love that you mentioned that, because so many people don't see that and don't realize the other experience that you have that are taking to the plate, to the table. So let's say that you decide that you want to be a software engineer, and you're like, well, currently, I'm in HR. How on earth do I go from recruiting to software engineering? This doesn't, it doesn't resonate, right? And so, but yet you've been in HR for 15 years and you understand those systems that you're working with. You understand how to use them, how to talk to them. You've even trained others on how to use them, which made you want to be a software engineer because it aligned.
Right.
Now,
right. You could go into a company that makes software for HR and say, I am your ideal user. I can come at this from a perspective that none of your other engineers can.
Exactly. And instead of taking, 6 months, or I'm sorry, instead of taking 6 years or whatever it is to get, because it used to, it would take us before, let's say 4 years to get a degree, right? That's because you're doing it full time. How long will it take you now when you're working and you have a daughter and you have, a husband and you're doing 10 million other things?
Yep.
How long will it take you to get that extra degree? And therefore, since it took 6 years now to get that extra degree, now when you're finally getting a job in this degree area, how much lost salary is that? How much? It's like the cost of missed opportunity, right? That's 6 years of potential salary that's now missed. Of, let's say it is $150,000, and let's say in HR and recruiting you're making $75,000 a year. Multiply that by 6. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's like 300. It's not 300. It would be
900,000.
450.
Girl,
450,000. Is it?
Yeah, I was doing 3 times 3. But it should have been 3 times half.
So we were good at it. By the way, we're both math people.
I was about to say I was a math teacher. It's when you start throwing out the examples quick. I'm like, I'm not following it, and then
I'm no engineer. So
let's say it's this 450,000, and that doesn't include the money you spent to get the degree as well.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So that is all, and it's another 100,000 to get the degree or whatever it is. That's now $550,000 that is lost trying to get this degree. That's going to make $150 a year.
Right.
When you could do something a lot shorter.
And one of the things you mentioned, especially when I was thinking about teaching, right, that you could teach without a specific degree in that. And one of the ways you can do that is by taking advantage of a program that lets you do that work and learn as you go and is paying you while you're doing it.
Exactly.
And you can do similar things in other fields, right? You can do an apprenticeship
Yeah.
in engineering, for instance.
Mhm.
I keep going back to that example because that's, the field that I am in, but you could, do,
Mhm.
in fact, some companies will say, with our internal people, we will train you to become an
Yeah.
engineer if
Mhm.
you go through this and this exercise or what have you. And now you're in this program. It's a 6-month program and
Exactly.
you're getting paid while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's part of your day job. So you're
Mhm.
not having to do double, right?
Yeah.
Education at night and work during the day.
Exactly.
And when you come out of
Mhm.
that, now you have this skill set where you can go on and get,
Yeah.
the next and the next salary, right? Because a
Right.
lot of the things we're talking about, they're not going to necessarily be 6 figures from day one,
Mhm.
right? It might be
Right.
something where the starting salary is more like 70,000, but
Mhm.
by year 2 or 3, you're getting
Yeah.
into that 6 figures.
Especially moving, if you have the opportunity to move from role to role or even company to company. But,
Absolutely.
it made me think about something. I actually have a colleague, and it's a black male. But what he did was he had gotten an opportunity to he applied for a role as a project manager, and it was like a really good salary, really good opportunity. I think it was paying like 180 to 200, something like that, right? And
Yeah.
so we had this opportunity as a project manager, but they said that you have to get your PMP within 6 months. They were still going to pay him.
Hmm.
And as long as he got and PMP, for those who don't know, it's project management professional certification. You get it through the PMI, which
Hmm.
is Project Management Institute, right? And so he got that certification, or I'm sorry, he got that job. And it's not even like he got the job pending the certification. It's just, hey, in these 6 months, it's almost like a probation, which a lot
Hmm.
of companies do. You have to get your certification in project management. We're going to pay you and you're going to do the work until you do.
Right. Right. And for a lot of those certifications, one of the requirements is some number of hours doing that work. And
Exactly.
so, yes, like get paid while you are moving towards that certification or,
Hmm.
whatever it is.
It's doable. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
doable. And the thing is, I remember when he was taking this role, he had asked, he's like, maybe I shouldn't take it because what if I don't pass the certification? I could lose a job in 6 months. But at the time, I think he had like a pretty lower level job, right? So in terms of income, so his salary
Hmm.
was half of what he was going to
Mm.
get. So the conversation was, well, guess what? Number one, two things, right? One, what if you do? What if you do get the pass and get the
Right.
certification?
Right.
He's like, I heard it was really hard. Well, what if you do pass and get the certification? Because number one, now you have a job making this, and every job moving forward gets to be higher, you know?
Right.
And number two, let's say you don't pass in these 6 months, right? Because when you're getting your PMP, you actually have multiple times that you can take it if you don't pass the first time, you
Sure.
know? So you could actually take it again, maybe even 2 or 3 times during a 6 month period.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, let's say you don't get it. Guess what? In these 6 months, you just made what you would have made at your last job
For the whole year.
for the
Right.
whole
You just
year.
doubled your salary. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You could go back if you needed to. Worst case, right?
Hmm.
Like, don't burn bridges. You could potentially go back to that last position
Yeah.
or go to another position because guess what? You now have another 6 months of project management experience.
Right. That's such a great point is for every time we say, what if this doesn't
Mhm.
work?
Yeah.
First of all, what if it does? Walk through that scenario.
Right.
And two, what if it doesn't?
Yeah.
Are you closing so many doors that you don't have a, a place to go to after this doesn't work out? Because
Exactly.
so many times when we pursue a new thing,
Hmm.
all we're doing is opening more doors.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're expanding the possibilities that can come. And so now that, as you said, now he has 6 months of this project management experience.
Yeah.
Maybe he can go get another job that will also support him while he pursues that certification, or he can get one that doesn't require the certification. Maybe he decides he never wants to get a
Exactly.
PMP because not every role requires it.
Hmm.
But as
Yeah.
you say, maybe it's find a role where you can be working on it while you're getting paid, while you're doing that work. And now for the next thing, you can command a higher salary because, hey, guess what? Now I also have this certification.
Exactly.
And so we're not saying don't ever get a certification, don't ever get a degree. We're saying be strategic and don't default to, I saw a job that required it. Now I have to do that before I can even think about going in this direction.
Right.
It's what are the ways where I could pursue this while getting paid well? Are there places that will support me in either, you know, paying me to do the job while I'm learning it, or is there a quicker way I can learn it? Right? Maybe it's a boot camp, maybe it's an online course, something that you can do more quickly than a degree and with much less of an investment.
Right.
And then move into that next phase. And maybe that's something that's going to support you in the job search, right, for that next thing. And so it's about getting more creative and more confident that, hey, my experiences are valuable.
Yep.
And I don't need an extra degree or certification to prove it.
Exactly. And that's a huge deal. It's like really just looking at that process. And it's overall being strategic in your career and not pigeonholing yourself or holding yourself back because out of fear of, well, what if it doesn't work?
Right.
You know, and out of fear of, well, I have to spend all this money or do these, or spend so much time doing this stuff in order to shift. Because there's not as much stuff as we think. Like, Tine, talk about your experience. And even, I think you have something that you've been helping people through now that's taking folks on this journey of shifting careers.
Absolutely. And part of it is, I do want to touch on this real quick, is that, all those hoops we're making ourselves jump through, first of all, we're the ones putting those hoops in front of us. And sometimes it's a delay tactic, right? I'm afraid to make this change and I'm not confident that I have what I need already to make this change. So I'm going to put a whole list of barriers in front of me. I got to do this first. I got to do this first. And that can delay taking that jump, taking that risk.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so one of the things I'm really passionate about is lowering that bar to entry, right? And so that does bring up, a partnership that I have had with a company called Course Careers. And they have an online course for 8 different well-paying careers. It's technology sales. They have a course on information technology, accounting, data analytics, software development, which is the path that I took, digital marketing, UI UX design, and human resources. And for each of those, they offer a free introductory course to help give you a sense of what the industry's like. What are the starting salaries typically like? What kind of salaries can I expect, 2 or 3 years in? What are the skills necessary? Right? What's the temperament of someone who does well in this, to see if it's a match before you even invest in the actual course. And then the courses are $500. It's so there's, I think the software engineering one is a little more. It's $799. All of the other ones are $599, or sorry, $499.
Less than $1,000.
We're talking about less than $1,000. And they are training you on everything you need for an entry-level role. They're training you on how to get that first job, right? What needs to be on your resume? What kinds of projects do you need to have in your portfolio? And because for them, they want the success stories, right? It's right. It's part of their business model to say, and we get people actually making these salaries,
right? Exactly.
That we're touting, right? This is how much people make after they do our program, right? So they're helping you get that first job and showing you what are the kinds of skills you're going to need, what are the kinds of things you're going to need to be able to learn to keep advancing and to get to that, right? So maybe the starting salary is more like $70,000, but here's what you're going to need to do to be able to land that next one, that $90,000, that $110,000, right? And get into those 6 figures in a matter of maybe 2 years, as opposed to in 2 years, you're still in your computer science courses.
Right. Again, we talked about the $550,000 lost over 6 years of, taking the course, trying to find a job, all those things, still entry level, right? As soon as you get out after those 6 years. So it's like, why not get that done in 6 months?
Right. And then you can tell that story of, hey, I have all the things that I need for entry level, and I bring all this other stuff to the table because I'm a career changer. Right. Now I bring experience in these other industries, or this other perspective
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
people who you're maybe the entry level people you're hiring are straight out of college and they've
Exactly.
barely done life. You know, I mean, no shade
They
to
haven't
people who are coming out of college. And I
barely
definitely
done
hope
life.
that you all are listening to the podcast as well. But in terms of people who are trying to make a career shift,
Mm-hmm.
there is such a wealth of knowledge and skills that you're bringing to it
Yeah.
without even trying. You just have to think about what are those things that are
Yeah.
effortless to me? What are those things that are
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
ingrained in what I do in my day to day that
Mm-hmm.
somebody else probably doesn't have who
Yeah.
hasn't had that experience, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for me, I'm so passionate about this because it changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
when I was a teacher, I was making $43,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
and working so
Crazy.
much that I couldn't breathe. I mean, I would fall asleep trying to do work. I'd
Mm-hmm.
wake up with my, you know, my face on my lesson
Yeah.
plans. Like, I mean, it was miserable
Mm-hmm.
for $43,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I did this boot camp. My first job out of that boot camp, I was making 64,000.
Mm-hmm.
Within 2 years, I had doubled my teaching salary.
Yeah.
Within 5 years, I'd more than tripled my teaching salary.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, this is, and I did not get a new degree. In fact, the only reason I've paid off the degree I did have is because I changed careers. I was
Yeah.
never going to pay off that degree making
No.
$43,000 a year.
No.
$43,000 with a master's degree.
Yeah. Exactly. Ooh.
And so, you know, to me, it's because of that experience, because of how life-changing that was, because of what I can now provide for my children
Mm-hmm.
that I would not have been able to.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
something that I'm so passionate about helping other Black women realize you don't need
Mm-hmm.
to get into more debt. You don't need to put all these barriers in front of yourself to
Yeah.
go get that thing
Mm-hmm.
that that is going to pay you well
It's
and
so
that's
true.
going to give you more time, right? I'm in a, you know, when I moved into software engineering, one of the first things I said, someone asked like, "Oh, well, so how is it? You know, you're not teaching anymore. How is it?" And I said, "I can go to the bathroom whenever I want."
Mm-hmm.
Like being being a teacher, like you to the point where like you couldn't be in charge of like when you go relieve yourself. Like
Mm-hmm.
the amount of autonomy I gained by changing careers and the amount of, you know what, I leave it at 5
Yes.
and I'm not going to think about it again till tomorrow at 9, right?
Yep.
Like that kind of stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
can't even put a number on that,
Yep.
on the
Exactly.
ability to have my energy and focus be on my family when I'm in family time.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine being a mom and a teacher at the same time. And you know what? People do it. People love it. Bless you if you are a teacher. If you are a
Right.
teacher, thank you for your service. You are doing the Lord's work.
Yes.
And it's not for
It's so
me.
true.
It's not for all of us.
You know
But
what?
what I do want for everyone who's listening or who's watching, what I want for you is a salary you deserve.
Exactly. You know, it's funny that that we're talking about this today, because I had a conversation about a week ago with a friend of mine, and actually a couple months ago also with one of my little cousins, but he's like in his 30s, you know.
Right.
Um,
baby cousin. Yeah.
right, exactly. But it's funny. Two stories. One is a teacher, and one was just like trying to find a career. Like he hadn't even gone to college. You know, he was looking and trying to figure out what to do.
Mhm.
So the teacher was actually making, I think it was 35,000 a year, and and he got to the point where he literally couldn't, when he would pay his rent and his car note, which was, it wasn't a high, it was like $200 a month car note, his
Mhm.
rent and his car note, he barely had enough for like ramen.
Yeah.
And so one day his car broke down. He had to Uber to school. He could not afford to Uber back. Like
Mm.
that's where he was taking out loans to support his teaching habit, essentially. You know, right?
Right, to support getting to and from his job.
Yeah, his teaching habit,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And it got to the point where he just had to quit. And
yeah.
so I'm
Mm,
so glad you brought up this course. This is why I'm thinking about this. So glad that you brought this up because I'm literally going to send this over to him
yeah,
because he was trying to figure out what to do next. Like he could not afford to be a teacher anymore. He couldn't afford to be a teacher because he had to take loans in order to be a teacher.
Because
And
our
I'm not talking
society.
about the loans to I'm not talking about the loans to get his degree. I'm
Right.
talking about loans to support rent and
And
a $200
transportation.
a month car note, right? To get to school and to be able
Yeah.
to eat. And this isn't a kid, and he's not a kid, but he's in his 20s, so but this isn't someone who was out here like trying to live it up and oh, I'm getting Starbucks every day. It was literally these two things, these two bills that he had that
Right.
he couldn't
Were
literally
his
afford.
entire income.
Exactly.
And you know what? I'm gonna have another soapbox on another day about how society treats
Teachers.
educators
Yes, exactly.
because it is one of, if not the most important thing we do as a
Disgusting.
society, and we
Yeah.
undervalue it in a way that's unacceptable.
Yeah. But
Um, but that being said,
the
what I want
mhm,
for individuals while we try to fix society,
yeah,
what I want
right.
for the individuals who are watching this is, what can I do to get what I need
Mhm, yeah.
so that then I can do the work that I'm passionate about, right?
Right.
That
You can
maybe,
now volunteer. Yeah.
maybe this, your cousin will get a role in HR or
Mhm,
something that's going to pay the
yeah.
bills, and
Exactly.
then he'll have the time to, right, to maybe volunteer to tutor
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
something where
Mhm.
now that he has enough where he can
Yeah,
pay the bills and get to where he needs to go, now
exactly.
he can focus on the things he's
Mhm.
passionate about.
Yeah,
But first we got to get that basic level
right.
of security, of
Mhm.
financial security and stability.
Yeah,
And then from there, okay, now what do you want? What do you really want?
exactly. Exactly.
Because maybe he does want to live it up someday, right?
Yep,
Maybe he
exactly.
wants to do something fun other than, oh, I get to have the fancy ramen today, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's okay to
And
want things.
fancy ramen. And that's the thing, right? It's like because the thing that he's passionate about, which is helping children,
Mhm.
became something he began to hate and feel like a chore because he couldn't afford to live. It's
Yes.
scary and it's crazy. And
Yeah.
so now, and he was coaching and everything, like to make the extra $4,000 a year as a
Right,
basketball
the little
coach or
stipends
whatever.
they give you
Yeah.
for
So it's
coaching
like
or
there's no opportunity there. And so him now he's forced to make this shift, right?
right.
And they talk about how we're always looking for black male teachers, and there you go, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, I don't want to. I'll jump on that soapbox with you when we have that
Yes,
conversation.
yes.
But that is it's so important. So now he gets to actually shift and do something that's going to actually allow him to live, right?
Yes.
And then the
Yeah.
other person I was mentioning is he has he didn't get a degree, right? He was working just like regular. I don't know why I'm calling it regular jobs, but like I think he'd had moved worked himself up at like Target or something like that
Okay.
as team lead, which is like you're like the supervisor. So he
Sure.
worked himself up, but he was trying to figure out what can he do that's not going to take his entire life away because working in retail can do that, and where he
What?
could he knew he was looking to get married, had been with his girl for a while, in love, wanted to start a family. He's like, this
Mhm.
isn't going to do it. I can't be away during the day until usually those hours at Target can be crazy. It could be like
Right.
you're not getting this 9 to 5. You might be working 2 to 10, right?
Right.
So it's like the schedule, all those things, it wasn't going to work for his life. And
Mhm.
so what he did was he took a course similar to this. I'm not sure exact one he took, but he took a course where he was able to shift into tech sales, and that's one of the areas that you talked
Mm.
about.
Mhm.
He moved into tech sales and is now making six figures and sometimes multi six figures depending on the year in
Mm.
tech sales. He's so good at it. Now he's teaching other people how to get into tech sales. Like, but
That's
it's like
amazing.
the growth got to happen
Mhm.
because he made that shift,
Right.
and it didn't take him 5 years to do it. It was a simple 6 month type
Right.
of course.
Right.
Get that first job, not making a ton in that first
Mhm.
job, but able to work it up. And then within like 2 years, he was already at six figures, multi
Well,
six.
and not just 6 figures, but also 6 figures with more regular business hours,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because he's
Hmm.
making that money and he's not away from his family from 2 to 10 PM.
Right. He gets to work mostly remote.
Mhm.
Sometimes he goes in, but with tech sales, you're really only working during the day because nobody's out here tech selling at 9 p.m., right? Tech selling. But
I
you
love that. Nobody's tech selling it at
9
9 p.m.
p.m. You got to be in when the businesses are in,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's so much opportunity there with this type of
Mhm.
program. So for those who are watching and you're thinking about that pivot, thinking about shifting into another space, right? Whether it's, and you don't want to take such a huge hit on your salary because maybe you've moved up a little bit and you're like, I want to shift into this thing I think will be right for me, but I don't want to take a huge hit on your
Right, I
salary.
don't wanna start at ground 0 making,
Exactly.
going back to now 35,000 or whatever it is.
Exactly. So you
Right.
get to take that course, right? That, and you'll see it in the description of our video. Take that course, 6 months. You now have this new skill. You can step into that space with your current experience
Yeah.
and this new skill,
Mhm.
using that in your negotiation. If you have not watched our negotiation episode, you want to go back and watch that, right? Because Tine is the
Absolutely.
don, is the don when it comes to negotiation, right? Who uses,
Yeah.
do people use Dawn anymore? I don't know.
I would
Uh,
I
yeah,
was thinking about it though, I was
my
looking
point.
back and I realized I did my first, salary negotiation when I was 18 years old. I've been
Exactly.
doing this. Yes, so yeah, go back
Mhm.
and check out the negotiation piece because right, that will help you even accelerate then this process of, starting at entry level and then leveling up
Mhm.
to get to that higher salary. And so yeah, so that the link is going to be in the description.
Mhm.
And again, those 8 careers that they offer are technology sales,
Mm.
information technology, so IT roles,
Mhm.
accounting, data analytics, software development, digital marketing, UI, UX design, and human resources. And I
Mhm.
would encourage you, if any of those sound interesting, to at least do the free course because for some of us, it might be, oh, I think I could be interested in software development, but I'm not that good at math. Well,
Mhm.
take the intro course because they're going to tell you you actually don't necessarily need to be good at math because who does the math is the computer. Right?
Yeah.
So that intro course, the free one, will talk you through, what are the skills that you're going to need for this role? What are the things that you're going to need to find interesting to enjoy
Mhm.
this work? And
Okay.
so you could do that free intro course for multiple ones and just see, right? I've heard about UI UX. I don't really know what it is. Come check it out and see if it makes sense. Because if you find something that
Mhm.
feels like it could be a good fit, again, either $4.99 or $7.99 for the full course, and that's going to set you up for an entry level role where you can be starting at 70,000, and again, working towards that 6-figure mark in a role that is now exciting to you, interesting to you, and
Mhm.
all of these ones we were talking about, these are like 9 to 5. You're not gonna be, on
Exactly.
call, right? I always say
Mhm.
one of the things I like most about having a software engineering job is I'm like, "I'm not a surgeon. Don't be calling me at 2 in the morning." Like, I don't
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, I've worked on some things where it's like, okay, if everybody can't log into this banking app at 2 in the morning, it's still a problem, right? But
Right.
but for the most part, right, a lot of these also come with, in addition to the higher salary, they also come with better work-life balance, a lot of remote roles available, a lot of
Mhm.
companies where there's flexibility and, maybe it's, "Hey, I need to pick up my kids at 3. Can I
Mhm.
work 7 to 3 or can I do 9 to 3 and then I come back 4 to 6, right? That there's a
Exactly.
lot more flexibility in these kinds of roles at these kinds of companies
Mhm.
than what a lot of us experience if we're, say, trying to get our shifts in at Target or
Right.
in education where,
Mhm.
these are, these are the work is endless, right?
Yes.
So, I'm so excited to be able to offer this resource to folks. So definitely
Mhm.
check out the link in the description, and I strongly encourage you to check out the free courses and see if anything looks like it could be a good fit.
Yes, definitely. Well, this is awesome. This has been an awesome episode. And I really believe that it's going to help a lot of people make that shift.
Yeah.
A lot of women get paid, right? And get some of that because it's not just about getting paid. It is about getting paid and it's about getting some of your life back, right? Getting some of your
Yeah.
time back. And that's where this comes in. So
Right.
I'm super excited. And I know there's going to be a lot of people going to that link now because it's helpful.
It's life-changing.
It's
It's
life-changing.
life-changing.
Mhm.
And the more of us who are in these higher paying roles, the more of us who are making that kind of money and gaining back that kind of time, the more power we wield, right? The more we can contribute to our communities, the more we can take care of our kids and like build those legacies and that generational wealth. Like this is bigger than I want to get mine. This is, if we do this, we can change society.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thesis. That's the whole why are we getting Black women paid?
Right, exactly. Right there.
So we will leave it at that. Thank you, Ileka, for joining us. This has been so fun.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me. It's been awesome. I love coming in as the monthly co-host. It's fun.
Yeah.
We have such a great time.
And for those who are joining us, please, share in the comments if you have done a career pivot, if you're thinking about doing a pivot. We would love to hear your story and gain from your experience. Again, if you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, we have an application you can fill out that'll be in the show notes, or you can go to gettingblackwomenpaid.com/podcast, and we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you in the next one.
Take care.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, subscribe wherever you're listening now. And if you love what you heard, be sure to leave us a review. And make sure you share this podcast with the incredible Black women in your life so we can continue getting Black women paid. All right, we'll see you in the next one.